Hello everyone and welcome back to the SteemTrail Gaming Podcast. Today is the 7th of January 2018. My name is Kralizec. I will be one of your hosts today. My second host today here is Tygergamer. Hello Tiger, how are you?
Great, how about you?
I'm doing swell. It's the new year, it's a new person, now everything's the same.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, life doesn't change just because a number changed at the end of the calendar.
Yes, I agree.
But today we got a pretty interesting show prepared for you guys. We got the Gaming Trail Awards for the year 2017. These are our first rewards, so
Yes,
bear with
they
us.
are.
But before we get into the rewards, I think there's one thing that we need to sort of mention. And those are the CPU exploits. So, Tiger, what do you think of them?
I think this right here is a huge flaw in their CPUs.
Honestly, I think this may be the biggest problem in IT technologies ever.
Yes, that too.
I honestly don't think there ever was something as big. Because this literally affects everyone. If you have a chip inside any device, you're potentially affected. Obviously, it needs to be connected to the internet.
Yeah, and also not to mention, isn't it only with the Intel chips?
One of them is, there are two exploits. One of them seems to be limited to Intel chips, although there have been some outlets that claimed AMD and other manufacturers are also susceptible to it. But so far we know of two exploits. One of them is called Meltdown, the other is called Spectre. Spectre affects just everyone. It's about some kind of memory usage. I don't know exactly. I'm not that sort of into technical stuff. But yeah, it pretty much affects every single chip on the market. Whether you have an Intel chip, AMD chip, Samsung chip, ARM chip, Qualcomm chip, everybody has it. The Meltdown, most outlets seem to be reporting that only Intel CPUs have that flaw. One thing that should be mentioned, I think, is the fact that neither of these attacks is particularly super easy to make, although Meltdown is actually much easier compared to Spectre.
Okay.
So you know Nate from Steam, right?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, so he was actually explaining this to me, so you guys know he's one of the developers behind the Steam blockchain and the Steam site. He's pretty much like I would call him like he probably has genius little IQ. And he was explaining what actually these two exploits do. And as far as I understand, the Meltdown can actually be accessed through JavaScript. So that one has actually some potential fucking huge issues because
yes, it does.
It could be done through even your browser. While Spectre, he said, you would probably need the resources of a decently sized state to be able to go against some targets that are worth it. Also, another thing that's probably worth mentioning right now, if there are people trying to abuse these exploits right now, they will not be going after you or me or any of the small fish. Right now, they will be going after companies that they can blackmail for a few millions of dollars because they have their user information, or sell that information for a few millions of dollars, or just steal millions of dollars worth of information from them directly. You know, your average Joe just isn't worth it at the moment.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're not worth it.
Yeah, so. We're just two small fishes.
Yeah.
But man, did you hear there are actually 3 separate class action lawsuits being currently leveled at Intel?
Oh wow.
And I think they have, like, I don't think all of them will succeed. I think the judge will say, so, okay, you have these 3 class action lawsuits that all claim the exact same thing. Let's just merge them into one. But that final one that will stick, I think, will win, and Intel will be forced to pay billions of dollars.
Most definitely.
And literally, this is just a shitstorm of epic proportions.
Yeah, it is.
Just to mention a little bit off, you can visit meltdownattack.com. There's a ton of information about these exploits there. There are even white papers if you're into that sort of thing and you can understand it. But there's also a little list of frequently asked questions. Probably the most funny one is like, does this affect me? And just says, yes. Yes, it does.
Yes.
Because, yeah, this is just shitty. One more thing, you said, you heard about the Intel stuff. That's because what you heard is, you probably heard that like Windows and everybody else will have to issue a patch that will lower the performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing is, that part is actually only true for the Intel stuff. The other stuff can be somewhat easily patched without impacting performance on a large scale. So, at least that. By the way, I just noticed, as you keep moving on, sometimes the window behind you comes out a little bit and makes you look like you have cat ears. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
Slightly off topic, but who cares?
Yeah, really. That's a funny side note.
Okay, but I think it's time to move to the Gaming Trail Awards for the year 2017. So we got a few categories for you guys. We didn't try to go with, the basic categories, but they still somewhat fit the description of normal categories, but not exactly always. So let's jump straight into the first category, the story that made you cry. So let me begin. Wow, what just happened? Sorry. The first game we have nominated for this is Rumu. So, Rumu was actually nominated by me. I just finished it, and I gotta say, it was freaking amazing. It was short, I will admit that, especially for the price. It was $20, but I literally teared up when the game was ending, and that doesn't happen to me very often. The second game, another one I actually nominated, is Pyre, and I don't think this will surprise anybody.
No.
As this game's story was just amazing, and depending on what ending you choose, you will either cry or cry. I think that's the way to put it. Because, man, I know you played it well, and I think let's just put a little bit of a spoiler warning. You have to leave some people behind.
Yes.
And that pissed me off so much. And I was so mad about that, but what can you really do?
Yes, that's true. And the next up is Nier Automata, which I nominated, and of course, just to explain how this actually made me cry, is like after you make it through the third playthrough of the game, after you go through both ending A, B, C, and D, you're given a choice of either saving the characters that died, or, and in the process, deleting your entire save file, or you can choose not to, and just that right there, seeing, like, going through the final credits, seeing all the people that are trying to help you who actually deleted their save files in order to see the true ending, that's what made me tear up. I was like, wow.
Okay. Next up is what
remains of What Remains of Edith Finch. This game revolves around death, so of course, none of the characters had a peaceful death. They all died in a certain way, and so does the main character.
Uh-huh.
And in some way, what really gets after going through what I went through this year, this actually had more of an impact on me than I realized.
Okay, it's really hard, you know, when we're actually talking about what made you cry. It's so hard, like, to tell you anything. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in all honesty, you gotta experience these games yourself. And last of Persona 5, the only thing that really made me cry was I got too attached. Like, I spent like my first playthrough. It's been like 96 hours through the main story, and by the end you get so attached to all the characters in the game. You're like, I don't want this to end, which is a good segue into our next category.
Yes. Next category. I'll let you announce it.
All right. Next is the. Oh no, wait. My bad. It'll be the one after this, I think. Yeah. Next it was the music that touched your heart.
Yeah, and here we begin, well, again, with Pyre.
Yes.
Man, Pyre, it's music. It's made by the people who made Bastion and Transistor happen, so obviously the music is just simply amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I still listen to the soundtrack from time to time. I would prefer if there were a few more actually songs with singing, to be honest. But even the rest, when you're actually playing through the game and you're listening to the music, it fits so perfectly to setting of each of the matches, of everything that's happening. It's just freaking amazing, and I really wish they will make more games with more amazing music.
Yes, I do.
One more nominee by me, and that is Hellblade's Senua's Sacrifice. So, it was actually hard to find a game that would compare it in terms of music for me this year. Mm-hmm. Especially when we're talking about touching your heart. Because obviously, you could always just go with, oh, Cuphead just had the best music. Cuphead had obviously great music. But it never really touched my heart. You know, it never made me just feel. While the music in Hellblade just sometimes crawls almost up your spine and just squeezes.
Yes, it does.
If that even makes sense.
Next up, these are my nominees. First up is Persona 5. Oh man, the music in this game, like just like with Pyre, I can like listen to the soundtrack and just memorize the lyrics of most of the songs in this game,
mm-hmm.
which that is a testament to how good the music is in this game.
Yeah, I think whenever you can remember lyrics of a song, it actually shows that it's a good song. At least for you personally. Obviously, there are others who will be like, "Oh, but that music's shit." But shut up, I like it.
Yeah, I like it. I don't care what you say. I freaking love it. And then next up is Nier Automata, and the music in this game goes great with the desolate world that you explore. Which, the music is it's really hard to explain. If you listen to it and play the game, like, oh wow, this music is awesome. And then finally, Horizon Zero Dawn. The mix between tribal and futuristic music, all that goes great in the way this game is presented.
Okay, I think that brings us to our next category, and
impressive graphics.
Yeah, the most impressive graphics. So here, there was one game we couldn't avoid nominating. So that was Cuphead. Don't deal with the devil. I don't think there's a single person who will not agree with me that the graphics in Cuphead are just simply impressive. The amount of work that had to go into animating everything, and you can actually see the love that went into it, is purely like awesome. And I don't mean awesome in the modern term. I mean awesome like it's worth of awe.
Yes.
Like there are details like you know, sometimes the characters' gloves will be white, sometimes they will be yellow, because that's what used to happen in the old-timey comics. And,
yeah, sure did.
People were like complaining about it, but now like, no, this was us actually paying attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think just to add something else to that too. Cuphead, the gamble that these guys made on this game, I think really paid off in the end.
Yeah, it was probably one of the few games that the wait was worth for.
Yes.
Okay, my second nominee is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight, the graphics, when you enter the game, may first seem somewhat even lackluster. But as you continue exploring each new area, you actually realize how much work again went to it. Like, I think I based this one off like how much man hours went into making the game. I didn't because none of my nominees are something AAA, something that just blows you with the effects. To be honest, I really haven't seen a game that would just blow me with the effects in years, because the changes in effects have become so gradual. It's actually very hard to see a difference between a game that was released last year and this year. Like there was a time when each year the graphical effects would just be on a whole different level. It just doesn't happen anymore, and I doubt it will ever happen again. It will just gradually come to photorealistic.
Yes.
That's why I actually focus on hand-drawn, hand-animated game. And that also goes for my third nominee, and I don't think anybody will be surprised by this one at this point.
No.
It's Pyre.
Yes.
Same reasoning as Cuphead and Hollow Knight. It's just so much work went into this, so much love and so much soul went into all three of these games. I love it, and I hope more developers will keep making games like this. Okay, what are your two nominees?
First up is Horizon Zero Dawn. The graphics in this game are great, but what really stands out to me is in this game you fight robotic dinosaurs, and the developers, they actually went and made like each individual part of the creature, so you can go and strategically take the creature apart and see what the thing was made out of. That's what really stood out to me in that game.
Okay.
And then next up is of course Zelda Breath of the Wild. This game, from the time you first start to the very end, this game's just beautiful. If you see something out in the distance, go to it. The visuals, even though they're like cartoonish, it just shows. Not every game has to have realistic graphics to look good.
Yes, and that's actually pretty much the point I did with my nominations. Like, you don't have to look like a photo to be impressive.
Yes.
Okay, what is the next category, Tiger?
The game that made you think.
Okay, and I'm gonna start with a pretty interesting nomination here, because this is not a positive nomination.
No, it is not.
This is a nomination because the game made me think. It certainly did. But it made me think about where the industry is actually heading. It was Star Wars Battlefront 2 2017. And I will say this: I don't think the game is a bad game. The game looks great.
Yes.
But the business model was shit. And the fact that it just blew out in such a manner made me think so much of what actually the gaming industry needs. I think it actually brought up like things like a gaming addiction into the focus. It brought up things like loot boxes just being essentially slot machines into focus.
Mm-hmm.
And why I certainly don't like EA doing this, on the other hand, I'm almost thankful for them. Because it gives us this one universal bad developer we can just pound onto that all the rest of the developers can hopefully learn off of.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got one more nomination, which is, where is it here? Which is Hand of Fate 2. So this might be sort of surprising, but because it's a second installment. But Hand of Fate, you have a dealer in the game that gives you, who like you essentially play against him, even though you don't want to beat him. You actually want to. He wants you to succeed so you can beat the guy who is actually in charge of the game. He's just like, he's essentially a narrator. But he always talks about, okay, so fate is this and fate is eventually that. And it made me think, so is there actually a thing like fate? I personally came to the conclusion that there isn't, that we forge our own fates, and that is sort of what the game actually wants to come to, because you get to forge your own fate. On the other hand, there are probably some parts of our life that are just predetermined and we cannot do anything about them, but we can try to work around them. And I think not many games actually allow you to think like that.
Okay.
Okay, what are your nominees?
First up, I got Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. The reason why this game is here is because in the game, you actually play through a person that's suffering through psychosis, where she actually sees different stuff. And you don't know if these things are actually real or not. So you actually get to experience what people that go through this crap can experience. You can empathize with these people, which I think for what they were trying to do here, I think they did a great job for.
Yeah, I was really thinking about nominating Hellblade as well, but the thing is, I actually like to study psychology when I was younger, so I already knew these things about psychosis and that, so it didn't make me think that much. So that's why I didn't nominate it. But I understand that for a lot of people, this can be their first experience with something like that.
Yes. And then next up is Nier Automata. And the reason I put this game here is, okay, the best way I can sum this up is it shows what it means to be self-aware. Whether you be human, machine, or android.
That's actually a great reason. I really like that reasoning.
Yes.
Okay, our next category is the game that made you feel like a kid again.
Okay. First on my nominations is Super Mario Odyssey. When I first played this game, when I first booted it up, I had a big smile across my face. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I understand why.
This game, it didn't have impressive graphics, it didn't have big set pieces, it was just fun to play.
Yeah.
And then next is Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy. The reason why I put this here is because Crash Bandicoot Warped, the third game in the series, was actually one of the first games that I ever played. So, really has a special place in my heart there. Then I guess you're up next.
Okay, for me, the first nominee was Hollow Knight. So, for me here, the reasoning is, when I used to be a kid, I used to pick up a game and just be amazed by how well it was put together. I used to be a big fan of like classical RPG games like Might and Magic, Gothic, Morrowind, Oblivion, anything sort of this sort of gameplay. And while Hollow Knight is not even close to that genre, it actually amazed me how good. So I bought this and I was thinking, okay, so this is going to be just your next run-of-the-mill platformer with maybe some roguelike elements because that was they were, advertising. But it turned out to be amazing. It had a story that wasn't shoved into your face. You actually had to discover pieces of the story. And even those were like mostly just, oh, so here's a little bit of a chat you can have with this person and you just know this. On the other end of the map, this person says this and you can just like, oh, these two things mean together this. And man, I was just blown away by the actual quality of this game. Like, seriously, if you haven't played Hollow Knight, you should. And my second nominee was Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil. And the reasoning here is just, I used to be really bad at games. And yeah, I was bad at this. Not as bad as that guy who played it, in the advertisement or whatever it was. But I was still pretty bad.
How far did you get in that game? Did you beat it?
I got to I think 2/3, maybe a little bit further than that. And then I actually was like, you know what? This is just eating too much of my time and I need to be doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And plus, I actually broke one controller by playing it. And I was like, I actually like to not need to buy new controllers every week. So that was my reasoning for like, you know what? I don't need to necessarily finish everything.
Yes.
I play. Okay, let's come to our pretty much last category that is sort of fun because then we have two very classical categories. But this is your category, so you get to announce it.
Okay. The game you wished did not have an end. And first off, my first nomination is Persona 5. Like I said earlier, even though I spent 96 hours on my first playthrough, you get so attached to the characters that you do not want this game to end.
Okay, second nominee is actually from the both of us. We both agreed this needs to be here. What is it?
Pyre.
Okay, you start. Tell me why you didn't want it to end.
Well, because for one thing, like the story was so great, but in the end it felt too short. Like in a way, even though it was a good ending, to me it felt like it ended abruptly.
Mm-hmm. I will a little bit agree with that. I sort of wish there. So first of all, I really wish you could just save all people and not just have to leave some behind. I was so pissed about that, but I actually understand why they did that. That was actually there to make you feel. Because, you know, if you saved everybody, there are no repercussions.
Yes.
But yeah, it did feel a little bit rushed. It just like, I think there should have been like few rounds of just going around without actually there being any of the final right. Because once you get to the point where everything's just speeding up and you have the final right like almost every third or fourth match, it felt a bit like forced, I guess. Yeah. Also, I didn't like the second team just appearing. I really didn't like that team. You know, the second team with your name. What is it?
Oh, yeah.
I would have preferred if there just was one of the teams left there and you could have battled them. I just felt unfair to them, you know? They didn't even get a chance in the last right to save themselves.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but in all honesty, though,
Hmm.
me personally, I was satisfied with my choices. Like I was able to get the people that wanted to get out in
You
the
know,
end. So
I'm not so much because I was sort of jerkish, and I kept the characters I played the best with until the end.
uh,
But I did choose to sacrifice myself and stay, so I could
yeah, I did
so
too.
I could save at least the one the little dog, because
Uh,
yeah. I just found the game to be easiest with him as he just ran to the ball quickly and then jumped into the
yeah,
pyre. It was just like, yeah, I win.
yeah.
But yeah.
uh, and then I guess next up is another one of my nominations is Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, thankfully, they rectified this in November, but beforehand, like I went through, completed everything that this game had to offer.
Hmm.
So when I got done, I was like, man, I wish there was a little bit more, which thankfully they added
Hmm.
with Frozen Wilds. But that just shows how good of a game this actually was.
Okay, and my choice here is Hand of Fate 2. And this is again sort of a negative award for me because I really didn't like the end.
Mm.
Similarly to what you said in Pyre, it felt really rushed. Even though there were like tons of campaigns you could go through, and there is an endless mode, so you can actually play it without an end, but you cannot play like the story anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the game was like really well. It was really doing a good job of building up the world, and then suddenly you just had to go into a fight without there was no pre-fight against this big or like middle-sized boss, then like big-sized boss, and then the ultimate boss. There just
Mm.
was the ultimate boss in the end, plus the fight I don't think was done very well. That
Mm.
just pissed me off. I wish this end wasn't there. I wish there was a different ending.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, and that brings us to the last two categories. Let's. You have the paper. Let's switch the two categories because I think the one we have as penultimate should be the last one.
Okay.
So let's go with the best indie game of 2017. So my nominee is Hollow Knight. I think I stated my reasons in the previous categories. The game looks amazing. The soundtrack is good as well. It's not like just chilling, but it's good enough. The combat works insanely well. You have tons of options on how to actually make your character work. The map is freaking huge, like literally huge. And all in all together, this was a great indie game, and I'm hoping the studio will make more, hopefully even Hollow Knight too.
All right, and mine is Pyre. Who would have thought? Well, not to mention this is made by Super Giant Games, so but who would have thought that an RPG mixed with a sports game would actually play so well?
Yeah, uh, whenever you're explaining Pyre to anybody who never heard of it, it's like, so it's like playing basketball. And you're like, wait, stop a second. Did you just say basketball?
Yes. Huh. But the concept though is so different. The Another thing I liked about this game was the world building. Like every single time, like whenever you like set up camp or whatever, I'd want to try and find out more about this world that I'm exploring. Which I hope this ain't the last
It
game
will
set in
be.
this world.
It will be. Super
Yeah, I
Giant
know.
Game, they don't do sequels.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying though, like have like a different game, but set in this world.
Yeah, I'm sort of don't feel that happening, and yeah, I would
I
love to
know.
see it as well, but I just don't see it.
Yeah. Hey, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, Pyre, great game. If you have not played it, you'll give it a try.
Okay, and What's the last category?
Best game of 2017.
So yeah,
Now,
this is the big one, you know, the best.
yeah.
What was the best thing you played this year?
Now, first, I want to say something though. Keep in mind, all the games that we have talked about here, Persona 5, like me personally, the games I talked about, Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mario Odyssey, Zelda, Nier Automata, all these games are deserving. But for me, the game that I was so hyped for in 2017, the hype was so worth it, and the payoff was so worth it, I'm going with Persona 5. I waited 3 years for this game to come out, and when I finally got it, I did nothing but eat, sleep, play Persona 5. This game, man, I don't think this game got enough love this year. Oh man.
Yeah, sadly, it was a really like packed year of good games. Well, sadly,
Yeah.
thankfully, actually,
Yes.
but maybe some things just got overlooked.
Yes.
And for me, the nominee is actually Cuphead.
Oh yeah.
So you might be like thinking, why didn't you just pick this for the best indie game? So I don't think this was an indie game anymore. It had way too much funding behind it. Even though the funding was crowdfunded, it was just too much money behind it. And even though it was, you know, most of us, when we think of a AAA title, we imagine just ultimate graphics, multiplayer, and loot boxes these days. But no, Cuphead actually shows that there is a way to do triple or double A releases without being jerks.
Yes. And that also gives with Persona 5 as well. This game did not have any expansions. Sure, it had like these cosmetic DLCs, but that was just about it. Both these games, they showed that you don't have to be a massive open world game to make money.
Yeah. And hopefully more developers will actually understand that you don't have to have multiplayer in your game. You don't have to have an open world where every 5 meters you have a quest.
Mm-hmm.
Just focus on gameplay and the world will spread. And
Yes.
people will buy it.
Yes.
And since we went through all the nominees, I guess it's time to announce the winners.
Okay.
We got a surprise for you guys. Everybody is a winner.
Yes.
We couldn't decide which one of these games was the best in each of the respective categories. We thought about it long and hard. But the thing is, all of these games are great. Especially in their respective categories. You shouldn't just try to single out the best game for its graphics, you know? Everybody likes something different. If you like big-ass AAA titles, maybe Horizon Zero Dawn is the best graphical game for you. If you like something a bit more just stylistic, maybe Cuphead was the most impressive graphical game for you. The same goes for music, same goes for story, same goes for anything.
Yeah. And also not to mention Game of the Year. Like, to me, all like the 5 games I put on here, to me, all of those are winners, including Persona 5.
Yeah, I highly agree. We just like tried to make this actually like an award ceremony, but this actually wasn't an award ceremony. This was just us talking about the games we enjoyed this year, about particular facets of the games we enjoyed this year, and why we think, if you haven't played them already, why you should at least give them a try.
Yes.
And with that being said, I think it's time to do the shilling.
Yes. You can find me at Tygergamer on Steam and that's Tygergamer on YouTube.
And you can find me as Kralizec on Steam and as Kralizec Gaming on YouTube. I just put out a new video there today about VR games, so if you think VR games are the future, maybe you want to check it out. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving us a like here on YouTube and subscribing to this channel. If you're watching this on Steam, an upvote and a follow to our blog would be very kind of you.
Yes.
Either way, leave a comment. Tell us about your favorite games of the year. And
yes,
that's probably it for today. So
yes.
see you guys later with more gaming content.
Yeah, have a good one.